Hello everyone, my name is Naomi and today I'm going to be talking to you about my experience as an intern at KCT and how KCT is reimagining broadcast. So in this age where technology is constantly changing, the way we consume media is also shifting. Web and streaming content are quickly replacing older forms of consuming content such as broadcast television. Public television is definitely in the throes of an existential struggle. It is a space largely independent from corporate influence or partisan agendas, and is therefore more important than ever. As television itself becomes outdated, questions of how can the model continue to evolve and adapt beyond broadcast alone arises. In response to this shift, channels are starting to think about their content, how their content is distributed to the public. So I am seeking to explore the rapidly changing forms and functions of nonfiction media. With my summer research and intern experience at KCT, LA's PBS entity, to better understand how the company functions. During my time at KCT, I worked on KCT's Southland Sessions, a transmedia experience dedicated to showcasing and reporting the arts of LA in response to COVID-19. Examining KCT is crucial at this time as it is re-emerging with KOCE and PBS SoCal and is currently seeking to reimagine relevance of public television. When the internet made its entrance, print and broadcast news organizations started to push more content online to stay relevant and fight for existence. Social media quickly became the primary source of information because it allows users to control specificity and customization of news. Through social media, news became an interactive experience instead of it being one-way news. People chose from sources and further shared information on their timelines and feeds. By interacting with the news that was being pumped out, they further shaped discourse and coverage of the news. Audiences became participants by helping to capture, share, and write news on the internet. With the internet and social media, there's now more information available on more sites with so much more speed. It is a searchable, infinite, continuous source that is accessible on demand instead of a finite product that appears on your doorstep. So from 1970 to 2010, KCT was a secondary public broadcasting service, also known as PBS member television station. According to Justin Cram, the director of content development, KCT departed from PBS in 2010 because of the expensive dues they were paying to the institution. KCT was going bankrupt and had to lay off employees left and right. Not only did they have to fight to stay relevant, they had to fight to stay alive. It was an interesting time for KCT to depart from PBS because of the rise in popularity of social media and fading interest in public television. However, during this extraordinary time, KCT was able to find its voice despite its financial struggles. In order to survive and compete with other stations, KCT had to be innovative, adapt to change quickly, and keep audiences entertained with new content with the small budget they had from grants, donations, and its members. Since the time that KCT departed from PBS, it has become a leader in innovative programming in transmedia models. Many traditional for-profit networks and print-based newspapers have followed KCT's steps in adapting to a changing digital landscape by producing content in different forms. For instance, KCT was one of the first outlets to produce docuseries programming, now a model used on streaming services like Netflix and Hulu. One example that proves its innovation is its show Artbound, which began with citizen journalists writing web-based blog posts about SoCal art scene. Readers voted on their favorite stories, which were then turned into short video pieces by KCT crews and streamed online. These short pieces were then aggregated into 1-hour specials that were also broadcasted on KCT Channel 8. They found new innovative ways to engage the audience through articles as well, such as attaching sound bites to pictures in the article, which would activate when the viewer moves the cursor over the image.
It's the beginning of LA, and so that was very exciting to me.
Some of their other popular shows include Emmy-winning Broken Bread, where Roy Choi explores complex social justice issues, including food deserts, food waste, and sustainability, and City Rising, that examines gentrification from its historical roots and economic role to social consequences. Surprisingly, KCT re-merged with PBS in 2019. This was definitely an interesting move because PBS's content and style contrast greatly from KCT's content. PBS is known for staple programming coming from a number of originating East Coast outlets. When speaking with Cram, he had a couple ideas as to why KCET merged back with PBS. With his 10 years of experience with KCET, he theorizes that PBS had an appetite for KCET's content for several reasons. One being that KCET's push for high volumes of interesting original content. Even with the small amount of grant funding, they're still pushing out high volumes of content that have high production value. From my own observations and seeing the inner workings of KCET, there's always progress being made on several shows at once. Several shows will have episodes being edited by freelancers, a couple will be gathering footage, and a couple others will be in the development stage. The channel produces an incredible amount of content for how big the team is, and is winning Emmys for it. On top of broadcast and video content for the web platform, KCET simultaneously pushes out editorial web-based content designed to enhance and supplement audiovisual programming. This space for transmedia production is a huge component of the website's success. At one time, it relied solely on broadcast TV episodes. Now, not only is it producing long-form TV programming, but also shorter video excerpts and text-based writing that can be experienced across TV, computers, and mobile devices by a more diverse array of audiences. PBS has been looking to add innovative West Coast voices to their content. KCET has always prioritized making content for Los Angeles and Southern California audiences by focusing on social justice and environmental issues related to the region. They do it well as they've been able to adapt quickly and change to respond to audiences' demands. For example, Artbound moved to become solely a docuseries online paired with articles instead of relying on audiences to vote on stories they want to see in a video format based on written articles. Justin says they were forced to move to this format because the way people are interacting with content has changed. Years ago, there was an appetite to respond to editorial content, whereas today this desire has dwindled. When COVID-19 hit, Cram witnessed the slowing down and sudden halt in content from other media companies and their competitors. Cram acknowledges that KCET's biggest challenge is addressing limitations. Figuring out how to finish filming episodes for shows that were half finished when the pandemic came around was difficult. Not only were there social distancing limitations and smaller crew size regulations if they were to go out and shoot, but they also had to consider small details such as masks. For example, it'd be inconsistent to air an episode where half of it is with masks and half is without because it was filmed pre-pandemic. To fill in the gaps, they've had to source content from social media. Because of KCET's willingness to adapt, they've been successful in producing content despite the challenges. Joining KCET during the peak of the pandemic was interesting because I got to witness firsthand how well the company rapidly adapts to change. KCET recognized this demand for arts content during this time when live in-person experience was impossible. I worked on the digital content side of Southland Sessions, a show that was a direct response to the pandemic and resulting in huge shifts in the arts community in Los Angeles. This new show and transmedia experience aims to connect audiences to SoCal's resilient art scene and support artists. The digital content's purpose is to support and add to the programming, as well as come up with innovative ways to present material. There is a section dedicated to presenting the arts of LA, another section dedicated to reporting. The last section is dedicated to sharing resources to the arts community, such as self-care tips, how to nurture creativity in quarantine, and where to find financial help. Throughout my short time here, I engaged in meetings to understand the inner workings of the company, searched for social media footage that could be included in the present section of Southland Sessions, searched for context of potential organizations for KCET to form partnerships with, and wrote articles. One of the articles I wrote about pointed out the major takeaways from Artists and Rights podcast, which discussed the intersection of artistic practice and social issues relevant to Angelenos. Found footage became a huge component of KCET's new content. Much of it consisted of artists getting extra creative or performing for the camera from their homes. Theater groups performed full musicals by placing backgrounds to set the scene. Music groups were able to give up close stage performances from their living rooms. They were able to do so by allowing each performer to tune in on a Zoom for a real-time interaction or even aggregating clips together. This method worked well for dancers and poets as well. As for studio artists and collectors and galleries, Southland Sessions presented clips of studio visits, artist talks, and gallery tours. Much of this content was filmed on phone cameras and Zoom, which was perfect for the made-at-home look. This was a conscious decision made by Southland Sessions team, as it is the easiest and most effective way to display the various artworks and performances happening in LA without excluding groups who may not have access to DSLRs and other professional-grade equipment. Krim also wanted to keep this at-home style consistent in order not to confuse audiences with what was considered high-value content. He is conscious of the fact that audiences sometimes place value on a video based on the looks of the video instead of the actual content. He mentioned that there's a lot of content out there that is beautifully shot, but the content is low quality. However, people will assume it is good because it looks pretty. He did not want these false perceptions to affect the content that Southland Sessions was presenting. Southland Sessions broadcasted episode also included footage of Zoom panels where the host facilitated conversations with various artist professionals in the community. KCET's Zoom footage may have not been relevant if it was done before the pandemic, of course, but KCET has realized its relevance in the current moment and chose to incorporate it. Zoom is now more relevant than ever because it seeks to help people make connections in real time during this moment when people cannot meet face-to-face. KCET's staff were able to recognize filming limitations and have learned how to still facilitate real-life interactions in this new format. So what is the future of KCET? I asked Krim about what his thoughts were about KCET's trajectory. He touched on KCET's potential in pushing its content to a national audience. Much of its content today is catered for Southern California audiences. However, Krim says KCET is thinking about filming some content in other major cities in the United States. Shows such as Broken Bread are in development to produce future episodes outside of Southern California. He says this is now a possibility because of KCET's high production value and its partnership with PBS. Krim also hinted at pushing for more interesting content in KCET's social media pages. When I was talking to him, he ran out of time, so I did not get to question him further, but I feel like this is relevant because of this moment where social media is more important than ever. KCET's staff is always constantly pushing to rethink ways they can present information to reach audiences. They seem to have an interest in online interactive content and finding new ways to incorporate other social media platforms in their work. Before launching Southland Sessions part of the website, the team entertained the idea of having an interactive map to show where that the arts in LA are alive in all regions. They ended up eliminating this component of the site, but I saw this as symbolic to the type of creative culture alive in the team at KCET. Okay, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everyone enjoyed. Don't forget to check out KCET's website and search up Southland Sessions. It's actually a really cool project.